Hello, welcome to my presentation, Northern Sea Otter Population Recovery on the Washington Coast. My name is Anna Hood, and this presentation will cover my topic of choice for the term paper. The population recovery for Washington sea otters is fraught with challenges. The cultural and ecological damage caused by the initial extinction of northern sea otters from coastal Washington adds a layer of complexity to any modern-day solution. The reestablished population of sea otters originated from 59 individuals translocated from Alaska. My presentation aims to analyze the ethics and efforts towards sustainability for the sea otter recovery plan. So, sea otter extirpation in the early 20th century resulted in disruption to tribal cultures. It also led to the development of westernized fishery industries that evolved without the influence of a complete food chain, thereby making it predisposed to unsustainable practices and another cause of biodiversity loss in the marine environment. The loss of a genetically distinct keystone species severely impacts the health of any ecosystem. Even with successful reestablishment, linkages between species can't be completely recovered. The map shows the historical range of sea otters in Washington, as well as the relative extent of fur trade along the Washington coast with the Pacific Ocean. Existing policy for the recovery of sea otters in Washington stemmed from the initiation of the Marine Mammal Protection Act in 1972. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is responsible for implementing the Mammal Protection Act, but does not consider the Washington sea otter a candidate for specific protections. They do, however, have protections listed at the federal level that prohibit harassment applied to all U.S. sea otter stocks, including those in Alaska and California. Therefore, the state of Washington bears the responsibility for the recovery of the local sea otter population. The only assistance supplied from the federal agencies is through research and funding, not policy implementation or enforcement. The State Action Plan outlines Washington's conservation strategies specifically generated for identified species of greatest conservation need, of which the sea otter is included. The State Action Plan refers to the Washington Sea Otter Recovery Plan and the objectives outlined in 2004. As of 2018, one of the 3 recovery objectives have been considered achieved: the downlisting of sea otters from endangered to threatened. The graph in the lower corner shows the steady linear trend of sea otter population increase after reintroduction. The State Action Plan declares the Washington sea otter population eligible for downlisting with unproven evidence of genetic exchange with the British Columbia population. No effort to reduce hazards that threaten the entirety of the Washington population, specifically from oil spills, have been implemented. Fisheries practices are unsustainable and responsible for biodiversity loss before the reintroduction of sea otters, let alone afterwards. Humans directly compete for sea otter main food sources at commercial levels, such as sea urchin, Dungeness crab, abalone, and many more. Endangered status is applied to a species only when it is seriously threatened with extinction throughout all or a significant portion of its range within the state. By prematurely removing these protections without justifiable reason, the current policies have placed the Washington sea otter in a dangerous position. The map in the lower corner shows the current sea otter range, as well as the 1969 and 1970 release sites for the translocated otters from Alaska. Although sea otters are listed as one of the 10 marine mammal species of greatest conservation need by Washington state, cultural adjustments are needed to protect sea otters from conflicts with humans. The vocabulary used in policy and outreach should be one that preserves the cultural significance of sea otters. Unlike the SWAP and state recovery program that considers sea otters a stock or a resource of the state and allows for the unethical euthanasia of an individual considered a nuisance. Coastlines need stricter protections for habitat if the goal of a larger distribution and subsequent protection from extinction of sea otters is to be achieved developing and enforcing new regulations is necessary. The first goal should be to preserve connected areas of coastline that is suitable for kelp forest habitat. This needs to be the priority for any future human development on the coast of Washington. The second goal should be to prevent any vessel from transporting hazardous materials through critical sea otter habitat. The Olympic Coast National Marine Sanctuary area to be avoided is currently a recommendation. This should be upgraded to federal regulation. If an oil spill were to occur within the area, the entire Washington sea otter stock would be eliminated, essentially causing Washington sea otters to become extinct for the second time. According to the 2015 State Wildlife Action Plan of Washington, biologists conducting research on sea otter ecology as well as many other fields were unsatisfied with the adequacy of collective investment by funding stakeholders. Basically, governmental agencies, both state and federal, must provide more resources and engagement for researchers if effective conservation is ever to be achieved. As someone who's interested in the conservation of marine species as a career, the research into the policies surrounding this topic was extremely enlightening. I have listed my resources here, and I hope I was able to convey something new and interesting to my audience. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation.